Regan Slaymaker for International Boxing News. I have the pleasure to be joined by, well, the other Regan in boxing, the Scottish and Celtic lightweight champion, Regan Glackin. Regan, how are you today, mate?
How we doing, mate? I'm not bad. I'm all good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. I mean, well, we introduced ourselves to each other at Nathaniel Collins's fight night as well. I take it you all got back up to Scotland okay after a really impressive performance from Nathaniel.
Yeah, mate. It was good to obviously meet you on Saturday down at York Hall, down for Nathaniel's fight, my teammate. So, yeah, mate. Home. I was actually on after I spoke to you at the venue after Nathaniel's fight. I went to a separate hotel because I was an early flight home. Because obviously I'm moving into fight week. I picked early flights just so I would kind of get home quick. You know what I mean? So yeah, mate, a good weekend for the team, minus the snapped nose, obviously, for Nate. But regardless, he got the job done, mate, and a good weekend for the team. So down there, do a job, mate, and back up the road, mate. That's what it's all about. So a good weekend.
It definitely was as well. We'll touch on Nathaniel quickly. I mean, we were watching him together as well. Like you said, I think the photo of the accidental elbow. I mean, it's not a
Mhm.
pretty sight if you've seen the photo, but kind of. I remember watching the fight. I remember saying to you, kind of, "Oh, Nathaniel's really good. He's a really solid fighter." And you just turned to me and went, "Try sparring him." I mean, what? I mean, talk to me. Kind of, what is it like training with Nathaniel and kind of sparring him as well, considering he's on a real rise at the moment as well.
Mhm. Yeah, obviously I was sitting next to you ringside, and I didn't actually see the elbow in the flesh. It wasn't till sure the end of the round, me and my other former teammate or coach's son, Joe Ham Jr., we were sitting next to him, and I was like, mate, his nose looks bad. But obviously, I didn't see a punch land. And then the end of the round, I was speaking to obviously one of the corner team, and they were like, it was an elbow. Um, but yeah, mate, Nathaniel, I think his kind of nickname lives up to it, mate, the Nightmare, because see when he's obviously a very special talent, mate, and that's not just saying that from being a teammate of his for the last 11 years. That's just, I think everybody kind of is took to Nathaniel, you know what I mean? I think everybody's kind of in agreement that he's going to be the next big thing up here. But like, no, the next big thing, he already is a big thing, do you know what I mean? It was it was boxing beautiful until obviously that elbow landed, and then obviously I had to adjust because I know firsthand as well, like kind of when your nose goes, which has happened to most boxers in sparring and stuff, it's hard to kind of battle through and remain focused. But listen, at the end of the day, that's what separates champions from contenders. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what he done. He's been brilliant sparring. I've done a lot of sparring with him for that camp, obviously, because his opponent was predominantly an off dog. So he's really, really good, Nathaniel. Especially when his feet work's on point, he's hard to pin down, mate. So, but that's it's brilliant. Obviously, rounds in the gym. You know what I mean? That work on the daily is only going to benefit me as well so much. So, I'm glad to have him as a teammate. Obviously.
No, definitely. I mean, when you guys are bringing yourselves on in the career, I mean, having kind of that in-house sparring, I feel like it sort of kind of gives you guys an added advantage as well. I want to get back onto your career, Regan, as well. Before we get, you mentioned it's fight week, but before we talk about that, I want to talk about your previous win against Craig Woodruff. I mean, he's a tricky fight. He's a tricky fighter, Craig. You've been in with the best, but I mean, you beat him well, and you picked up his Celtic title as well. I mean, talk to me about that win, mate.
Yeah, mate. That was obviously by far the biggest win of my career. You know, it was kind of, mate. It was last year. I had a good win up against a good experienced boy up here, Ahmed, and I picked up the Scottish title. And then, unfortunately, in the process of doing that, I had a kind of injury that had been niggling for a while. So last year, I was hoping to kind of get that fight a wee bit earlier. But last year, when I won the Scottish, I broke my hand in three places. So we had a bit of time out. I was 8 months out the ring, and then we set up a plan for this year. Obviously, January I was back out, just getting a six rounder, just kind of to shake off any rust, and then obviously 5 weeks later in March the 9th, I fought Woodruff. It was. See, the first few rounds were close until I kind of got my range on him because he's a big boy, see, especially for that weight. He's really tall, so after a few rounds, once I found my rhythm and that, I kind of took off, But it was a competitive fight. Obviously, it was wide scorecards, but it was a competitive fight. I just think once I found my time and stuff, my fitness kind of took me right through that fight. I learned a lot in that fight. So yeah, that was good, but no rest. I could obviously have sat out. To be fair, I thought that was going to happen a wee bit closer to summer. So I was going to get obviously two first half of the year, get a wee break, then a second. But I'm out just this weekend just to kind of keep the momentum going. I didn't want to have a big performance like that and then take a few months out when I'm full time anyway. So I'm constantly training. So I was like, I'll get this. We'll take this other fight, albeit it's a 6 rounder, but it gives me another chance to learn on things that we picked up for the Woodruff fight that I want to try and improve on myself. So I'm happy with the Woodruff fight, the win. But at the end of the day, this is another fight now. I look forward rather. I don't kind of dwell on the past. We had a good performance against Woodruff and made a good step, up the ladder. But it's just about keeping this momentum rolling before I'm back defending the Celtic in September. So yeah, mate. So all systems go for this weekend.
No, definitely, mate. We'll talk about this weekend. I mean, when I was going through your box rec, one thing that's very clear, I mean, outside of the injury period that you mentioned, kind of, you had been very active. I think before that injury, you were averaging about 3 or 4 fights a year, which, I mean, for any kind of contender on the rise, I mean, that's what you want, right? Is that activity what's important for you, kind of going into Saturday's fight?
Yeah, majorly, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think activity, especially obviously other sports, don't notice it as much, but especially for a boxer, I think activity, mate, isn't a bad thing. You can spar as much as you want, stuff like that, but there ain't no experience or fight experience. So as I said a minute ago, like I don't want to sit and dwell on a good fight and then sit for a few months out the game. I've went from a 10 round title fight down to a 6 rounder, but at the end of the day, it gives me a chance to improve on what I didn't like that I'd done in the last fight. Do you know what I mean? So I think for somebody like myself, that's obviously my full time job. I'm heavily invested in this boxing game. So the more I can get experience and get rounds, then at the end of the day, I didn't have a massive amateur career as well, so I'm very much learning on the job. And I think that's for day one. I've always said that's one of my most important things that I wanted to do is always kind of learn from each fight. So activity is key, mate. That's how obviously I train year round. So we're always in a position if there's no injuries to take these fights. Do you know what I mean? I think the time this fight comes around, as I say, that will be just under 5 months with 3 fights. One of them being a 10 round Celtic title fight. Do you know what I mean? So staying active, mate, is definitely ideal for me because I'm always training anyway. So it's injury aside for last year, mate. Activity's always been something I've leaned towards. You know what I mean, and tried to advocate. So it's happy days, mate.
No, definitely, mate. I mean, I think I got this right. I think I remembered correctly on the Saturday. You said that the win against Woodruff kind of doubled up as a sort of British title eliminator sort of thing. I
Yeah,
think I
yep,
think I think
that's
you
right.
said.
Yep.
I mean, that win kind of moving forward. I mean, with Sam kind of picking up that European title and potentially going on to kind of that world ranking stage. Now it puts you in a great position to potentially or one fight Sam or fight for the vacant British as well.
Yeah, it does. As I said, obviously the Celtic like doubled up as a eliminator for the British. You know what I mean? I think that's how I replaced Woodruff. I think I was like number 9 before that fight, then I jumped to number 5. So listen, I've always said for day one as well, I think you take rankings with a pinch of salt as well, but it's like I don't base myself on that because see, especially in the lightweight division, you could look at the top 20, do you know what I mean? And it's all good, it's all a lot of good boys, you know what I mean? A lot of good boys that have came through the amateurs and so on. So it's a stacked division domestically. But as I said, we laid out a plan for this year and it's gone as expected. I believe I'm going to be defending the Celtic title, which I got ordered on the circular by the board the other day. I'm going to be defending that against the Celtic champion at super lightweight. He wants to drop down at lightweight, I believe. So I've been ordered to defend that. So that's going to be, I think, September. And then after that, as you've just said, hopefully the board then put me forward for my shot at that. Do you know what I mean? By that point, I definitely think and shown I've earned that sort of right. So I believe, obviously, get this on Saturday. I never look too far forwards, you know what I mean? But realistically, I want to get the job handled Saturday, enjoy my holiday, enjoy a few weeks for summer, and then defend this Celtic, and then hopefully British Commonwealth, depending on like the board, obviously, because at that level, it's up to the board 2 fights for them sort of belts, you know what I mean? So hopefully after I defend that, the board slot me in there, mate, because at the end of the day, you want to always be moving forward. You don't want to move back the way, do you know what I mean? Especially after an injury and stuff last year. I've had my time in the sidelines, so I'm just looking forward to kind of progress with each performance. And I believe a defence of my Celtic, as I've already won an eliminator, would put me in position for that British or a Commonwealth. So that's where I mean my team are aiming for, yeah.
No, too right, mate, and we look forward to seeing it as well. I do want to touch on something that kind of Nathaniel brought up at the press conference last week as well. I mean,
Mhm.
he was talking about putting Scottish boxing kind of back on the map. Obviously, I don't think it ever went anywhere, but you kind of want to build it up even more so than what it already is. Obviously, at the moment, you've got yourself, you got Nathaniel, Lee McGregor, obviously Josh Taylor still kicking about as well. But obviously, with you guys all on the rise, ready to put kind of Scottish boxing back on the map, mate.
Yeah, mate, 100%. Listen, whether it would be any other Scottish prospect, I'm all for. There's room for all of us to do well at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Especially like so like Nathaniel that said, there's loads of talent up here. You know, Lee McGregor as well. He's fighting on a lot of good sparring with Lee over the past few weeks. You know what I mean? Our teams are close, so me and Lee have shared plenty of rounds the last few weeks, and he's actually on the same show on Saturday to get back out and get active. So there's, as I said, and there's loads of talent coming through, mate. So hopefully, obviously, Nathaniel's got his foot in the door with Queensbury and stuff. So I think a show up here would be good. Do you know what I mean? A good public show for a lot of us to show that there's Scottish talent up here as well, rather than sometimes a lot of the times you're having to travel and get used as an opponent and stuff. But I think up here we've shown that there's a lot of talent coming through. So hopefully all us boys just at the end of the day, mate, see if you, the way I've always approached it is and seen it as if you keep winning, you keep knocking at the door, you can only be held back for so long. Do you know what I mean? So I believe he likes Nathaniel and stuff. I think he should be getting his own shows to headline up here now. He's a big enough name. Do you know what I mean? So, and obviously there's all his other boys at the back of the door try to force their way in. So there's definitely a big spectrum coming through a Scottish boxing, which is refreshing to see, mate. Because at the end of the day, you want all the boys up here to do well as well. Do you know what I mean? Albeit with myself. So also there's room for us all to do well, mate. So hopefully that opportunity comes soon up here, and it's definitely one that I'd love to be on. So
No, definitely, mate. And hopefully I could afford myself to a flight to cut up to Scotland to watch one of those shows as well, mate. My last one, Regan.
definitely,
Thank you again for giving me your time today, mate. We ask
no
everyone who
problem.
comes on the we ask everyone this who comes on the channel. But when all said and done, what does boxing mean to you?
Everything, mate. You know, it's funny because a lot of people, especially boxing, mate, like I've done it for a young age, but I made the transition for football. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I've always spoke about football as my first love, but when I gave that up for boxing, mate, I've always approached it with 100%. You know, so at the end of the day, mate, I've gave everything up round about my life, mate. I put everything on pause for boxing. You know what I mean? So yes, obviously you get into boxing because you enjoy it, but it's a job and it's a career for me now. Do you know what I mean? So some boxers I see that still work and still stuff like that. You obviously need to do that, but if you're fully invested in this, you need to spend the most time. Do you know what I mean? So every day, I just give it 100% every day, mate. And listen, I'm not going to say, oh, if I don't win this belt, if I don't win that, I'm happy. I literally give it 100% every day. I'm dedicated as I come, mate. You know what I mean? That's one thing I definitely know for sure what I lack in talent I make up for and hard work and stuff like that. So I'm in it for the long haul, mate. I'm in it just to keep giving 100% and we'll see how far we can go for it. Do you know what I mean? But I do believe it's obviously going to be a big future or else I wouldn't have gave a job up and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But I've got a good family and stuff that help me as well. So we're in a good position, mate. And it's exciting times ahead, mate. So I'm really looking forward to the journey, man.
Definitely, mate, and long may it continue, might I add, Regan, as well. That was my last one, mate. Best of luck Saturday, and yeah, hopefully catch up with you. Maybe closer to your home than mine at a fight card. But no, Regan Glackin, thank you very much. Best of luck Saturday.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate your time.